Hi, I'm Lisa Haydon with Community Focus on Washington County, Channel 6, Central Kentucky TV. Our guest today is Sue Blair, who is the agent with Shelter Insurance in Springfield in Washington County, and Robert Lewis, who is an intern in the office this summer. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
So, well, this is great that you can be on here, Sue. And of course, Sue, I just have to, even before we get started, I have to say, now how did Sue Blair, whom I've known forever, who's had numerous occupations, get into insurance?
Insurance. Well, honestly, I don't even know how. I think it was purely a God thing, how it all even came to place. I had worked in Frankfurt and kind of took a leap of faith last May and left Frankfurt to actually came to be a school bus driver. Got my CDL last summer, was driving a school bus and doing handyman jobs. I was pressure washing houses, sealing concrete, repairing concrete, just whatever anybody kind of needed. Worked in Lebanon mostly for a lot of my little old lady friends over there, and just did handyman jobs all summer. And so anyway, I think one of my friends here in Springfield, some of them felt sorry for me for doing that, and the Shelter Insurance recruiting committee came to Springfield because the previous agent had retired, and they came into town and they went to the banks and they went to different offices in Springfield, and they said, who do you think would make a good agent for us? And evidently my name came up a couple of times. And so that was how it all came about. So they contacted me and asked me if I'd like to come for an interview. And I thought, well, gosh, I don't know. I've never done anything. I said after, though, doing the CDL last summer and having to go back to, learning all that, I was like, I'm not going to learn anything else. I'm done with school stuff. I'm sticking with this. And then the insurance company, that means you got to get licensed in your life, your health, your property, casualty. So therefore, school started all over again. And did a crash course, did some insurance school, passed all my tests, got licensed, and started working for Shelter November the 7th of last year.
Well, Sue, you took on a big endeavor there. I mean, of course, you worked for the Department of Agriculture for numerous years.
10 years.
And, we were talking about earlier with Gary how you inspected chickens. Yeah.
Yes.
So, any woman that can inspect chickens, drive a school bus, certainly, and do pressure washing, certainly is very capable of being an insurance agent.
Definitely.
That's going to be the easiest of
all. Oh, yeah.
Well, no, I know it requires a lot of studying and passing lots of tests to be able to offer those insurances.
It is a lot of responsibility. I said, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll think of somebody's policy, and I'll think, okay, do they have this, do they have that, are they covered for this? So you invest in them. I mean, of course, even when I was bleeding chickens and doing chickens, I love relationships. I love getting to know people. When I did that job, I covered the whole state of Kentucky, and then I wrote grants, so I might be in heels and pearls one day writing grants and boots and coveralls the next day bleeding chickens. So that was just how it was. But you met such a diverse group of people. And honestly, even with insurance, it's the same way. I'll meet that first-time driver, that kid that's, 16, 17 years old, and, all the way up to, I've got clients that are actually 90 years old. So you meet all realms of people because everybody has to have insurance. And so it truly is an investment. And for me, I invest more in the person than their stuff. I much prefer to protect that person. Then we can replace their car. We can replace even their home. But you don't want them to be sued. You don't want them to be underinsured, but yet you got to protect them. You don't never ever sell them something they don't need.
Right.
And so there's always that kind of a judgment call thing, but because most people don't understand their insurance. So you got to educate them. And that's another thing that I enjoy about my job and has kind of been in my history is teaching them. Teaching them about what they have. And this is where I encourage people, no matter who you have insurance with, to contact your agent and set up a 15, 20, 30-minute meeting with them and go over what you currently have. Lisa and I were talking about this earlier. If you've had the same policy for 10 or 15 years, there's stuff on there about property damage and an auto policy. Well, cars have changed. Average price of a car now is probably more like $40,000 instead of 17 or 18, 20. And a lot of people are still carrying $25,000 property damages coverage. Well, it's literally cents on the month, 60, 70 cents a month to double that to $50,000.
Yeah.
So we're not talking anything that's going to break the bank to do, but could break the bank on your end if you don't do it. So I encourage people to learn what they've got, to sit down with their agent, like I said, no matter who it is, whether it be shelter or who it is, to sit down with them and go over their policy.
True, very true, Sue. I mean, so many people don't do that.
Exactly.
And then when something happens, they've, had a car accident or their house has had damage, and they realize that, hey,
Right.
I don't have the coverage.
Exactly.
Well, an example is the recent hailstorm, for example, that went through Springfield. People did not know their deductibles. They had separate wind and hail deductibles from their normal deductible, and policies will have that. May not have known it when you signed up for it. And another thing is actual cash value on a roof versus replacement cost. People will find that out, and oftentimes you find it out too late. So go check it out, find out what you've got, because that's the definition of an accident. We don't know when they're going to happen. It's not something you can project. So just take a few minutes, go sit down with them, because it's not uncommon to have a different deductible for certain perils. And when I say perils, that means wind, fire, theft, tree falling on your house. Those are all incidents that can happen to your property. And to get a cheaper premium, and lots of times when you're shopping insurance, we all know we're trying to find the cheapest insurance, and you may have signed up for something like that because it was cheaper to get a higher wind and hail deductible. So,
and then there's things too, like flood insurance.
Right.
Well, I learned the hard way when we had a flood many years ago, and I had 5 feet of water in my basement.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we had there were several places, in Springfield, but I didn't have flood insurance, so it didn't cover anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
flood does not come with any normal policy. You purchase flood insurance separate. Now you can have what's called a drainage system backup endorsement on your homeowner's policy, that if you have drains in your basement and all of that backs up. And even that can get into a little bit of wishy-washy when it's a flood situation. May or may not be covered, and that's another thing you would want to talk to your agent about. If you've got a basement and you've got those drains and you don't have a backup drainage endorsement, you may want to talk to them about that.
Things that people don't even think
Exactly.
about.
No, you don't. And that's why when you go to buy insurance, I don't rush anybody. I've got people that they may be with me 2 hours, and we just get to know, because something will come up in that conversation that will lead to another question, or give me some insight into maybe their financial history, just different things as far as what maybe they do need. They may need elevated coverage. So I don't rush anybody. We sit down, we may have a cup of coffee, we have a bottle of water, whatever it takes, and we really, truly develop those relationships. That's one thing, I've lived in Springfield my whole entire life, been here 53 years, but I haven't worked in Springfield for the last 26 years. So that's my favorite thing about this job, is I feel like I am back home again. I am seeing people that I haven't seen in years.
And your office is right on Main. So you see everybody coming and going.
I do,
Exactly.
and just right there, it's easy. I love where I'm at. I could walk to work. I don't know why I don't, but I've yet to figure that one out. But I do.
I'd say you probably haven't had time.
Yeah, I know. I don't have Saturday hours now, but I did in the beginning. But I was working like 12 hours a day through the week. I was like, okay, I do Saturdays by appointment. I've even met people after church on Sunday. They'll be like, hey, Sue, forgot to pay my bill, or I need to get insurance on my car. Are you going to be around? I'm like, yeah, let's go. We'll just head down after church and do it on Sunday afternoon. So I am available at all times. But I am loving being back home.
Yeah.
Back home.
Well, that's great. And, Sue, because you do know people, you probably have asked them questions about their insurance policies that maybe they didn't think about. Like you're saying, you need to know what your coverage is. You need to sit down with your agent. And since you're here in Springfield, you'll say, now what about that shed in the back? Do you need coverage on that? Or what about I noticed that roof the other day.
And I guess the greatest compliment is when you meet a client that you didn't know, that, and then sometimes they'll put a Facebook post out there, they'll do something, and they'll be like, gosh, I've had insurance for 40 years, and I sat down with Sue Blair today. She told me more about my insurance than I've ever known in my life. And it's very humbling, but yet shows me the importance of educating people on what they've got. And the whole idea also of insurance is peace of mind. And I want people to leave with a peace of mind. And I honestly want to have peace of mind that I sold them the right policy, that I've got them covered correctly, and that we truly have dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's. Because at the time of an accident, people are very vulnerable, emotions are running high, and you have to put on many hats as an insurance agent. You are there to console, because I sell life insurance as well. So, you may be there at the time of an auto accident, you may be there at the time of a house fire, or you could even be there at the time of a death. So that's another valuable asset in knowing your client. You know how to respond to that person. You know their language that they're going to speak on how they want to be approached. Some people are okay with a phone call. Some people want you to show up at their doorstep, and I'm good with all of that. At this point in my life, starting a new career, it's not about a career per se. It's really not. It's not about a job. At this point, it's really about doing something that I want to do, that I like doing, making new friends, meeting new people, and just kind of doing life with them.
And helping
yeah.
people out.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm a very
that's
service.
What you're doing.
Yes.
You're helping people out. Because everybody has to have insurance, and certainly you want. And I want to mention this because I'm always mentioning this particular insurance. Renter's insurance.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I work with the Red Cross. We talked about this recently. A family who had a fire and lost, and they were renting the house. They lost everything, and they didn't have renter's insurance.
And it's literally less than $10 a month.
Yeah.
You can get renters, if you combine it with a car, you can get it for about $7 a month. And that's for $15,000 worth of personal property coverage. That covers you for theft and stuff too. It's not just if the house burns down. It pays you for loss of rental time. If you were displaced for 6 months, 9 months, and you needed rental income or rental replacement money, you write that in there. It's all part of that same $7 to $10 a month. You can endorse, $15,000 or $7,000, we'll say, of replacement rental. I want to say income, but it's not income. It would be rent. So there's all kinds. Yes. So see, it pays. Yeah, you get money to pay for your rent elsewhere while you're displaced for the personal property inside the home. And even if you had a shed, speaking of sheds, say you rented that property and you had a shed out back, we cover that that's all covered under your rental insurance too. It is, and the liability. somebody comes, you have a party, or don't even have a party, you got kids and you're renting. One of those kids falls and breaks a tooth or breaks a leg. You've got insurance, liability insurance, to cover their medical payments for that. Heaven forbid the parents sue you, you've got liability insurance to cover if you were to get sued over something like that. You know, if a kid falls and breaks their leg and it's a $2,000 run to the emergency room, that's all included in that $7 a month. You've got liability coverage. It is the most neglected, probably, insurance policy out there and it counts as a companion policy. If you've got a child going off to college, you know, and you're taking them off their insurance and stuff, get them a renter's policy to go with that auto policy to help them on premiums, because it counts as a companion policy.
Yeah.
So I mean, we even did that back when my kids, we had a good agent, and they recommended that. They said, hey, buy them a renter's policy, because we wanted to start weaning them off of our auto policy, put them on their own, and they could buy a renter's. And they were in college, they weren't in the dorms, they were renting houses, and we all know what can happen when kids go off to college with liability, theft, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it is definitely, you can have deductibles of $250, $500, very, very reasonable policies. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, so it's for those parents listening out there who have children going off to college, keep that in mind.
To buy them a companion.
Yeah.
Then you get an additional discount for a life insurance policy. You can throw in a life insurance, you know, a life insurance, $50,000 life insurance policy is less than $10 a month. You take the deduction off of the autos, lots of times that policy's costing you less than $2 a month for a $50,000 life insurance policy.
Great, that's good to know. And what about, do you also have medical insurance?
I could get it. I have not ventured. I'm licensed for medical, and I sell for more than just shelter. I sell for Progressive, Dairyland, Gateway. You know, I do multiple other companies than just ASI. I have multiple companies that I sell for outside of the shelter shield of shelter.
I see.
So if someone comes and, you know, they're not a fit into shelter, I can find Modern Home is another one. I have a pretty large expanse palette there for other carriers besides shelter. I want to put you in shelter first because they're a preferred premium company, and we are excellent rates on people that own rental property. That's kind of our sweet spot. Insurance is a roller coaster ride. Where I may have a good sweet spot in rental property right now, some other company may not, and it's just every company gets hit different years, different losses, amounts of losses, and they'll have to eventually make that up. So that'll place them in a different cost area, and so then I may be cheaper on some things, and then balance out on others. So that's right now a commercial is our sweet spot.
That's interesting because I had no idea that some of the for example, your house insurance might be less expensive with one company for the same coverage, and your auto insurance might be less expensive with a different company.
Right.
And I suppose you can do that with your at your one agency, correct?
And I do that. I may have their home with shelter and their autos with Progressive. I may hold somebody in Progressive 6 or 9 months, let them, we all have things that happen in our life that change our lives a little bit. And maybe they've gotten a ticket or, maybe they've had an accident. I can maybe hold them over in Progressive 6 months, 9 months till something gets off their record, then move them into shelter, So
that must be why I'm in Progressive all the time.
Uh-oh.
That name surely rings a bell.
They have their sweet spots.
I didn't know that. You're teaching me something new, Sue.
Oh, it's not always that case, but it is the value of being able to diversify somebody's assets.
Yeah, it's like
good.
your portfolio or something.
It is.
Putting a home in one, car in another, life
If you have
in,
to.
if you have to.
Right, if you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
do it. And like I said, none of us are immune to things in life, that the storms of life that sometimes change our path a little bit, and we change it, but then we get, back
Yeah.
into path again.
Yeah.
And shelter, like I said, being a preferred premium company, you've got your boundaries. You can either walk the narrow path or you can walk the wide path. Progressive has a little bit wider path than Shelter does. So after, you want to narrow that path down, you come back into Shelter.
So that gives you the opportunity when someone comes in to talk with them about various things that need to be insured,
Right. It is.
So your home and, your car, as you mentioned, life insurance and possibly health insurance, or you haven't gotten into that
Right.
yet, but I'm wondering about the future on that.
Right.
So with things that kind of up in the air, how that's
And honestly, that's kind of why I'm waiting too. You can teach this old dog some new tricks only so long, and then it's like, okay, I think I'll wait on that trick until they get it all figured out and give me the answer to it.
Yeah.
and then I'll take on that avenue.
Well, now, Sue, you were talking about people not knowing on their insurance. So, for example, like you were saying, they need to film, or they
Right.
need to
Yes, that was
know.
Well, we were talking earlier about fires and or complete losses in a home, and when you have a homeowner's policy, you have a dwelling coverage, which would be the actual structure. Then you have personal property coverage, which is typically about 65-70% of what the dwelling is. So if you had a $100,000 dwelling coverage, you'd have a $70,000, say, worth of personal property. People look at that and think, oh, they're going to cut me a check for $70,000 to cover the stuff in my house. They're not. And this is not just Shelter. This is any insurance company. That is an up to $70,000. You have to provide an inventory to them. How many earrings you have, how many necklaces you have, how many washcloths you have. It can get very, very detailed. If we all stopped and thought, we could probably come up with someone that we know that has suffered a fire. And if you go and talk with them, they will tell you the pains of what a fire loss can be. And this was kind of one of my next door neighbor here in town. Her house burnt down back in January, and I've watched her struggle, literally struggle with having to come up with every item in her house. She had basically a 3,000 square foot house. That's a lot of territory to come up with, and that's thinking what's in your drawers, what's in your cabinets, what's in your closet. More than likely, if this building burnt down tonight, none of us in this room would be able to come up with what was even in this one room as far as an inventory. And so what I thought about Robert, and I have another young lady, Lydia Smith, who helps me throughout the year. She's doing mission work and stuff this summer, so she's kind of off for a little bit. Was seeing about them and offering this. You would just contact my office, but it doesn't matter what insurance company you have. That's negligent to the opportunity here. Would be to contact me to see about Robert and Lydia coming and videotaping your home, with their cameras, putting it on a flash drive or uploading it to iCloud, something like that. This is not something you necessarily have to do every year, but it would be something that maybe once every 3 to 5 years you might want to do to update. Just again, because insurance is for peace of mind, to have a peace of mind to do that. And we've looked at prices negotiating, maybe like $75 if you've got 6 rooms in your house. Once over 6 rooms, an additional $20 per room, something like that. Excellent opportunity. These Lydia and Robert both are role model young people in our society, and I'll come with them.
It does.
They really they are. I did a mission trip with Robert last summer. That was how we met, and that's why he's working for me this year. Is because and Lydia was on the same mission trip. We went to Pittsburgh, and you see potential in people, and they are just excellent young adults. And So part of it is trying to find them a way to make a little extra money. And so I thought, well, maybe this, and after seeing what Cherry, my neighbor, has gone through and coming up with this inventory, and what she would have easily given $100 for somebody to come in and tell her, and all she has to do then is sit down and write it down. I thought, well, let's just throw that out there this year and see if that's something that that takes a hold. If it's 5 people that do it, that's a little extra money that they didn't have to get them ready for college and high school again next year, and kind of a public service.
Peace of mind as well, to have that there in case something does happen, and nobody knows when it's going to happen. Nobody expects it.
And you hope it never does.
And you hope it never does. But to have that there and to have that peace of mind, like, oh, like we do have this here, makes things go a lot more smoothly after the process has happened.
And now, Robert, I suppose you have to open those cabinet doors. And,
I do, yeah.
And you ask the home and say, "Can I open all those kitchen cabinets?"
Yes.
Because really, honestly, don't you think about what are all those kitchen cabinets and what's in them?
And what's in them? Yes, exactly. And I mean, I probably couldn't tell you half the stuff that's in my own home. And it's just one of those things where, of course, like we obviously want permission. If they don't want us to go in there, that's fine.
Right.
It's no problem at all. But yeah, for the stuff that they for the kitchen area and stuff like that, where it's just simple supplies and stuff like that, that's a really easy thing for us to kind of sweep through, kind of get what we need, and then for them to have that there for their peace of mind.
Now, Sue, you mentioned really, I was absolutely. I mean, having to know how many washcloths and towels you have. Is it that detailed?
The inventory list is that detailed. It really, when you've got replacement costs, because and it's for your benefit. I mean, the whole idea of insurance with replacement cost is to put you back the way you were the day before the loss. Okay. So they want to put you back with 85 washcloths and 16 towels, you know. So they want you. They truly want you back the way you were. And that's another form of insurance too, is inland marine policies. Know your homeowner's policy. You may have coverage for only $2,500 worth of fine arts or guns. That's going to max out. Like my neighbor, she was from London. She was from England. She had very, very valuable artwork. That's going to soon way bypass that $2,500 value. So if you've got valuable items, insure them on an inland marine policy. Insure them separately, like you would your diamond ring, something like that. Put guns on it. I did a inland marine policy for a gentleman a couple of months ago. He had 33 guns, and he wanted them all individually insured. And
so, do you have to insure them each separately? I mean, what if you had jewelry and 2 or 3 rings that you want? Can you just insure them as a bulk, or they have to be done individually?
You're going to do them individually. You'll have appraisals on them, photos, things like that. There is because you're saying this is valuable, and if it is truly that valuable, then you're going to have an appraisal on it. You're going to have a picture of it, things like that too.
Well, so what do you consider valuable? What if you have a pair of earrings that are, important to you that are a couple of $100? You don't do those separately.
No, they would all fall under your general homeowner's policy. Yes. No.
So
it's when if you've got a $10,000 engagement ring, which is nothing anymore to have a $10,000 engagement ring. You
better be saving your money.
Oh, that won't happen for a long time.
We need lots of calls to videotape homes so Robert can
we need
save
Robert to get some work this summer.
Oh, yeah.
Might as well start saving now,
That's
Robert.
true.
Because those rings are expensive.
Yes. So that those are items, because even with an inland marine, you have, quote, mysterious disappearance. If you had a party and the party's over, you had taken your rings off and they're no longer there. That is, quote, mysterious disappearance. That would not necessarily fall under your homeowner's policy, but it would under your inland marine policy.
Well, that's
So
good.
you could be in Jamaica on vacation and lose your ring. It'd be covered under an inland marine policy because the inland marine means it travels with you. It goes wherever you go.
I see.
It travels with you.
So, what would you consider valuable at that point? Something over what you think?
Over $5,000. Yeah. And there's, like I said, it's relatively. I just did a ring for, I think it was $9,700 was the value of the engagement ring, and it ran right at about $100 a year to insure that. So it's all based on value. It's based on, the type of item it is, how likely that item is to be lost. I mean, we all have, right, different things fall under different base premiums due to the likelihood of something happening to that item. And the whole idea of insurance is we all share the loss. The cost, you could total your car, say it's worth $35,000. Chances are you're never, even though we all complain about the cost of insurance, you're never going to spend $35,000 in your lifetime in auto insurance. So it's about spreading the loss among many, and many absorb the cost. The recent hail damage, people's policies, premiums may go up a little bit. It is, in a sense, a nature of the beast. You collected maybe $10,000 for a new roof and your policy goes up $45 a year. It seems like a lot when it hits because we all have short-term memory when it comes to what we receive in versus what we pay out.
Right.
And we forget really quick what we received in. And but when you look at that, you'd be like, oh my gosh, how many years will it take to truly make up for that claim?
Yeah.
And so there's, in all honesty, as complicated as insurance, I think, can be, it really is, it is very much common sense. It is, look at what you've got, protect it, protect yourself first, then protect your stuff. And then move on. Have that peace of mind. And
so I'm just going to advise people, Sue, to come see you, go over those policies. Get Robert here to come up and film it so they know, and they will have peace of mind.
there you go. There you go.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you,
Thanks, Lisa.
Sue, for being here today. And
Well,
Robert,
thank you for the opportunity to come in here.
I'm wishing you well.
Well, thank you.
And we hope that we will get people coming in and talking about this.
I appreciate it.
And getting themselves insured properly.
Yes.
Yeah. So
My goal as well.
See Sue at Shelter Insurance.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.